What's good, my people? Welcome into Buckets Action Network's daily NBA betting podcast. We're in the workshop Thursday, NBA playoff slate, and we got one ball game for you. Minnesota Timberwolves back at home hosting the Denver Nuggets. Number sits as we record -2, 2.5 total, sits at 204.5, 205 in some places. I got the guys with me, Andrew ConnorWatts and J Money is Money. We're going to break that game down for you. We are presented by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Go download the Action Network app and subscribe to the YouTube page. As I always say, the amount of content coming out of this Action Network house and crew is unbelievable. Go tap in, check us out, pick your winner. They have them for you daily. You know the deal. We get the play, we get the cap, we get you guys out of here. Andrew ConnorWatts, give me your best bet for Nugs Timberwolves back in Minnesota.
We really are in the workshop because I got two leans that I want you guys to talk me into. Anthony Edwards under 28.5 points or Denver money line plus 115.
J Money is Money.
I'll go with the Minnesota Timberwolves in the first quarter -0.5.
I got nothing for you guys. I've been pouring over this game since the Knicks let out last night. I've been going through it this morning. Nothing I feel confident at all printing a slip in. I think this is a perfect spot to potentially catch some live that you like after seeing game flow, but no officials for me. All right, J Money is Money. Coming right back to you. Let's talk about the first quarter. Back in the more desperate team you said in the Minnesota Timberwolves. Is that the only reason why? Break it down for me.
Yeah, I'm going with the desperation spot. This is something I do almost every single time. I mean, teams down, I don't care if they're down 3-0, 3-1, when their backs are against the wall, I'm going to ride with them, especially at the house as well in that first quarter. First quarters can be a little wonky, but I do feel like with these teams in the desperation spots, if you want to win the game, if you want any chance to win the game, you have to come out and throw that first punch there. We know that they've lost 3 straight games as well. Now it's on them to try to make the adjustments as well. I think they feed off the home crowd. Obviously, last time they were at the house, they lost both of those games, got smacked as well from start to finish. So this like in my opinion, when I look at these first quarters, like I look at it like it's a 12-minute game right there. You know what I'm saying? If you don't win that first 12 minutes, you're already behind the 8 ball for you know what I'm saying, for the rest of the game. So you at least have to come out and throw that first punch. Absolute desperation spot. I do think that Timberwolves, the guys like Anthony Edwards, Naz Reid, Karl-Anthony Towns, I think they respond here. Rudy Gobert probably seeing all that. We know he got Defensive Player of the Year and then just got absolutely worked. Like this is the new days of social media. Like these guys are going to see all this stuff. I think they're going to be turned up in this particular spot. They're probably telling their family stuff, hey, leave me alone right now. We got to win this game. And you know what I'm saying? I know I just had a baby, all that. Hey, y'all gonna have to deal with that right now. I got to focus on this right now. We got to come out here hot. I don't want any distractions. So I will ride. I mean, win or lose, this is a spot that I'll take with confidence every single time. I'll take the Wolves here -0.5. I mean, if you want, you could take the money line. I know that Michael Conley sat out in game 5 there was, but I mean, this is win or go home here. Hopefully he can tough it out, but they were only down 2 in Denver in their first quarter as well. So would really like to have Conley out there, but even if he's out, I'm already betted. I'm not cashing out. Give me the Timberwolves. I'm howling with the Wolves in the first quarter. You see what I'm saying? Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. Mike Conley not being on the floor is a massive miss for Minnesota. I mentioned this in the previous pod, AOW. We had a real opportunity to buy back on Denver when they were down 0-2, but it was so jarring seeing what Minnesota did without Rudy Gobert on the floor that people got scared. People were scared. People were talking about the Denver Nuggets being flat out dead, and it was a really good opportunity to buy back and get the Nuggets at a really good price. When they were down 2-0, you could have got the Nuggets to win the West at +700. I mean, it got that – the narrative got that bad surrounding the Nuggets. But I guess this is why I didn't really have a position on the game overall, is that you just have to decide if you think Minnesota's going to roll over or they just don't have enough. If you think they're going to bounce back and potentially set the tone in the first quarter, like Jay Money said, they got a real shot to win this game and push the Series 7. AOW, what do you think about the first quarter play from Jay Money?
I was eyeing the first quarter play actually before going over all this because of the very things that Jay just talked about. I mean, they have to come out strong. There's no way that but they're much less likely to get this done if they don't come out strong. And there's still a way that they don't get this done if they come out strong. But either way, they have to come out strong, which is why I think it's a great look from Jay in the first quarter.
Yeah, no doubt. Give me your thoughts overall on the vibe of the series, and then take us into your betting spots with the things that we'll go through and vote on.
For sure. I mean, I think you bringing up that 0-2. I'm kicking myself right now for not taking the Nuggets down 0-2, but at the same time, they gave us no reason to believe in them. I mean, that's the tricky part about betting. You have to kind of navigate. Oh, this team, it's never going to look good. Jim Turvey talks about this. It's never going to look good buying low, right? Mm-hmm. But I think I should have had it more on my radar. Like, look, this is the defending champs. We know they can do it. If any team can do it down 0-2, it's the defending champs, Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, those guys. So I do think it was just, but you're right, it was jarring. I remember, I'm a Red Sox fan for baseball, and I remember when they won in 2018, they looked terrible to start the playoffs. And my girlfriend was like, all right, like, can they do it? And I was like, no, they cannot. They cannot do it, because unless the bottom of their order starts playing well, like starts being able to hit, the bullpen stops being terrible, and David Price learns how to pitch again, they can't do it. And then that's exactly what happened. All of those things happened, and they ended up winning the World Series. So, but that's kind of what's happening here with the Nuggets. Like, they made all these adjustments where it's like, okay, if you told me, like, if I had a crystal ball and could be like, they will make these adjustments, the refs will start officiating differently, like, then I would absolutely have bought low. Like, I should have probably anyways, but it is, I mean, that's the tricky part. It's hard to know what is going to happen, but that's kind of where I'm at. That's kind of why I'm leaning Denver here, is that I kind of feel like the Wolves have thrown everything they can at the Nuggets. And I think that the Nuggets, and Jokic in particular, has just figured out how to deal with them, right? So I think that, incorporating Gordon a little bit more the way that they have in these last three games, like making it more of a 3-man game instead of that 2-man game with Murray, is like really been massive for the Nuggets. And it's unlocked even more Jokic's ability to play however he needs to play to win, regardless of what the Wolves throw at them. If they're like, cool, beat us with your passing, he's like, yeah, okay, got it. If they're like, be a scorer, you got to outscore us, then we saw what happened last night. Like, that was like almost both, right? 40 points, 13 assists, 0 turnovers. Like, he was doing everything last night. So the place where I'm a little bit hesitant is, to me, I thought that was going to be a Wolves spot last night, but there's no Conley. So I'm wondering if maybe if we see Conley, I agree with Jay, we have to see Conley in this game if you want to back the Wolves, if you want to feel good about a Wolves bet. But am I maybe overreacting by leaning Denver money line here? And maybe am I overreacting to just a game with no Conley, and now we have the Wolves coming back home? What do you guys think?
I'm going to take it to a place that not a lot of people talk about, and I'll take it to the mental side and feeling good about spots. So, for example, Jay Money just laid out, I have no problem backing Minnesota in this spot in the first quarter off pure principle alone. If they do get beat up in the first quarter, I'll lick my wounds and continue to move on. This is a spot where if I backed Minnesota and Denver came out and Jokic went to work just like he did in Game 5 and abused Gobert, didn't turn it over, made all the right decisions, I'd be tilted. And the number one thing for me is trying to avoid going on tilt by all means. So that's when I'm talking about hedging and doing stuff like that. Those are all personal decisions. For example, another example, the guy that had that really like the $1.7 million ticket that everyone's been talking about, him cashing out for $80,000. The
Smart guy.
biggest mistake he made was making that ticket public. So every fucking possession, Bleacher Report is calling you, asking you what the cash out is. That had to be driving him crazy, right? So when you're in situations like that and you're dealing with tilt and emotional decisions and all that stuff, it's better to just keep things quiet. And what is the best move for you personally? Now, if I put up my hard-earned money and I had to pick a spot here, by the way, you don't have to pick a spot. I understand this is a betting podcast and we work for the Action Network, but this is a long game. We're always trying to find the best spots. This is a very difficult situation. Conley questionable. They've lost 3 in a row, but they look so good in the first 2 games. Jokic hasn't made a mistake. Is Gobert going to bounce back? Are they going to get physical with Jokic? You can go through back and forth and kind of decide what you want to do, or you could just pass and take a peek and watch and see what happens in the game. But to close up my point, personally, if I backed Minnesota here and Denver came out and knocked their head in, I would be on tilt because I would say to myself when I looked in the mirror, how can you fade Jokic and Denver off 3 straight games where they showed you this team overall is better? They took Minnesota's best punch and bounced back. So for me, it would be Denver with the points, Denver money line or nothing, purely on the fact if I had to make a play, this is the one that I could live with the most. Just like Jay said, I backed Denver, they lost. I can wipe my hands and go on to the next play with a clear mind. If I back Minnesota and they continue to close off Anthony Edwards like they have been, and I'm relying on Jaden McDaniels fadeaways and spot up jump shots, I'm going to be furious. So that's my 2 cents. If I had to make a play here, I would go Denver. J Money, what do you think?
Well, first off, you're over there preaching. Like, I mean, you kind of got on. I don't know. I know some people just listen to the show; they don't watch it. But if you're watching on YouTube, like Sean, all he's missing is like the little priest thing right there. He's over here preaching. Like, I mean, like you said, if you don't absolutely love something, never force a bet. I mean, I always say that as well. Never force a bet or something that you don't absolutely love because you're definitely going to regret it as well. I mean, then like you said, always trying to keep yourself like you always worrying about the mental thing. You don't want to go until so. Like Sean's just absolutely preaching. I kind of just like lost track of the game or just listen to because he's saying something for the greater purpose, like not just for one game, but like forever. And I love that type of talk. But yeah, for this game, I mean, I never bet against desperation. And I kind of look at this one like, say if the Nuggets were up 3-0, that's how I'm looking at this game. You see what I'm saying? Because it doesn't matter. It's the first of 4. And I do think that like everybody's starting to, like at first we were talking about, okay, now the series is over with the Wolves. Now we're talking about like the series is over as well for the Nuggets. And that's something that I never do. The series is never over. We've seen crazier things. We've seen teams like the Cavs come back from 3-1 in the finals as well. You see what I'm saying? So I'm looking at this series like it's 3-0. I never bet on the team that's won 3 consecutive games in the playoff series. So anybody that's looking for a sweep, I've noted we've had sweeps. Obviously, the players are a little bit more softer these days. You never really used to see sweeps because players are like, no, we're not going down like that. But that's why I'm taking the first quarter because when a team is facing a sweep as well, I always take that team in the first quarter, and it works out really well for me as well. So I feel like it's a bad spot when a team comes out and wins and covers 3 straight games. I feel like that's a bad spot, particularly in the playoffs. Obviously, in the regular season, you can win 20-something straight games, cover 20 straight. But in the playoffs, it's totally different when you're facing the same team. So I said all that to say I am taking the Wolves in the first quarter. And full game, I'm only looking towards Wolves. I understand what Sean and Watts are saying that, like, obviously it should be Nuggets or nothing. But just the way that I cap games, the way that I look at games, it's either I'm taking the Wolves here or absolutely nothing. But I'm taking them in the first quarter. That's what I feel better with. But if you were giving me a free bet or if I had like a free play on one of my apps or something, I'd take the Wolves here and I wouldn't be on tilt if they did lose the game. If the Nuggets won it, you just have to tip their cap to them. But I think we see a 7-game series in this one. Everybody would win with that as well, including the Nuggets getting another home game at the house. But it's Wolves are nothing for me. I know a lot of people can't see it, but I'm howling with the Wolves in this game. I'm taking them in the first quarter. I'm staying off the full game, but I just want you to understand that I'm looking at this like the Nuggets are up 3-0 and basically trying to close out a sweep. And I do think the Wolves have the mental strength to push this one to a game 7. Oh!
Yeah, no doubt. And like I mentioned, that's what it is. It's a personal decision. That's how Jay sees the series. That's how he's handicapped the spot. He could live with Minnesota. I couldn't. That's why I don't have a slip either side. I think it's going to be a very tight game. Last point here before we get to the prop, ALW, is they have to show up for the home fans one time. This team hasn't – the Minnesota Timberwolves fans haven't seen their team this good in decades. I think they show up and get to business early. I do like that first quarter play from Jay. It's similarly to what just occurred at Madison Square Garden. If the Knicks did not get off to a good start in that first quarter, the building was going to be dead and they were going to be in trouble. The fact that they came out from the jump and jumped on Indiana from the start energized the building, and they were able to carry that energy throughout. I mentioned in the pod previous on Buckets is that if the Pacers want to play a track meet game, the New York Knicks can do that at Madison Square Garden. They have no problem going out and running up and down at MSG. They leave MSG, and that energy's not there to support them. It gets a little different. If Minnesota can come out and impact the first quarter, they have a real chance to win the game. All right, ALW. So me and Jay are split there. You kind of got to be the deciding factor on what you want to do on that side. Let's talk through that really quick, and then we'll get to the prop, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, you want me to go with the prop now?
Yeah,
just talk about the – yeah. So, I mean, Game 5, Matt had a great article on Action talking about the anything but Ant defense that Denver threw at the Wolves last game and the last few games, really, but especially in Game 5. Throwing doubles at him and just making him, be a playmaker, which he's not really a great decision maker when he's forced like that. Christian Brown's been doing a great job on him one-on-one, but and then Jokic coming up to the level of the screen when they do that high screen to try to give him a little more runway, to give Ant a little more runway. But here's the thing is it's just a little bit too high for me. So in the two games that Ant went over, he just went way over 43 and 44 points. The other three games in this series, and I'm not even looking at the Suns series because their defense was horrendous. So I'm just looking at this series, 27 points, 19 points, and 18 points. To me, I think that the points for Ant are a little bit correlated with, obviously the success of the Wolves, although he did go under in the game 2 win for the Wolves. So it's not exactly quite correlated. And then the other reason that I'm a little bit hesitant is that there was no Conley, right? So there's no Conley to initiate the offense, get the ball movement. I mean, they had zero ball movement last night. That was, yeah. So I do think that will be better with Conley involved. So that's all, again, why it's a lean and not a hammer spot. But the more I'm thinking this through is maybe it makes sense to just parlay that Denver money line Ant under, because at this point in the series, I don't think that the Wolves can win this game unless Ant goes off. Do you guys think so? What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, the right now in the market, 28.5 in some spots, juice to the over. Jay Money, I'll come to you. Is this a Wolves or nothing spot for you because you believe Ant's going to show up, or does it have to be a balanced attack across the board?
I do think it's going to show up. First off, and I'll say, I'm not scared to say this, the game is going to go how it's reffed. It's really that simple. I mean, that's today's NBA game right there. You see it in the Knicks-Pacers series. You see it in really every series, in the OKC Mavs series as well. It's just some of these type of teams, they need to get to the free throw line to be successful. And so if Ant is getting foul calls and, you know what I'm saying, they're calling ticky-tack fouls, then obviously he's going to go over his points prop. But honestly, I don't think that he has to enable for the Wolves to win, because this one is all on their role players. You're going to need Naz Reid to have one of those games. You're going to need, even though Jaden McDaniels is a defensive guy, you're going to need him to put in 10, 12 points here. You're going to need Conley to be hitting some of those threes as well, man. They're going to need Cat to go for 20, 25. So I don't think it's just on Anthony Edwards, and even more, if they are going to double team him and play that anybody but Anthony Edwards, that means that he's definitely going to have to be more of a facilitator. So I would lean towards more. Like I say, if they're going to double team him, he has to go over his assist for them to win. He has to get like 10 assists and make them pay for double teaming him. But if he's gonna, like, I was watching like game 1 and game 2, I hate the fact that Anthony Edwards was doing so much like dribble, make a tough shot. And I said then, I was like, that is not gonna stand up. And we saw that in the regular season as well. That's why they had trouble closing out fourth quarters, because their offense would get so stagnant and it would just be Anthony Edwards just dribble, and he's the only guy touching the ball and then taking a tough shot with like 3 or 4 seconds left on the shot clock. So I do think every NBA team is better when the superstar is not ball dominant. Every single team, like when they move the ball and spread the love, I think every team is better. So I think it's more important, in my opinion, for him to go over his assists than it is over the points. I couldn't talk you off under there, especially if they're going to continue to double team him.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I kind of like the over assists Minnesota money line, under points Denver money line or something like that. Yeah. Maybe get a little crazy and just go like super low exposure, hitting those extremes. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's the Matt. Yeah, go check out that Matt Moore article. ABA, anybody but Ant-Man. He did a nice little write up. Now, I'm gonna tell you this. I believe in this spot, anybody but Ant-Man, it's going to be all about Ant-Man. He's going to come out and get 25 shots. If they go down, I believe his mentality is going to be, my squad's going down with me, or we're going to go through with me. Period. Point blank. That's it. The whole giving up the rock, I don't care what they throw at him. I believe Ant-Man is going to be extremely aggressive. That's why I believe this number is pushing 30. In the last couple games, it's been 25.5.
Yeah.
It's been 25.5. He hasn't cleared it. He's going back home and goes up 3 points and is juiced to the over. Karl-Anthony Towns took 19 shots. That was the team leader. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Going back to Minnesota. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I believe, took 3 or 4 shots less than Anthony Edwards in the game the other night. It's not going to happen. Anthony Edwards is going to be uber aggressive. That's why it makes me a little nervous to kind of suppress this too. And he's at home. Yeah. He's going to get to the line more naturally. 28. I had a buddy that took the under on Jalen Brunson the other night, and he ate that shit up in the first 13 minutes. And he was like, yeah, it felt like a heavy number until Jalen got going, and then the number shrunk up, right? I think that might be a case you see here where Ant-Man pours in 19 in the first half, and you're like, fuck, this ticket is absolutely toast. So stay tuned. I don't know. I don't have a slip. I don't have an over on Ant-Man either. So I'm talking that talk, but I haven't printed an over on Anthony Edwards either. So stay tuned there. But I think the volume overall will be there, and Anthony will be aggressive. His usage rate is going to be through the roof. All right. That will do it for this episode of Buckets. We only have one game to break down, and it's an absolute barn burner, tough one. I got no side. But to recap, the Wolves, first quarter, -0.5, -110 for J Money, Andrew ConnorWatts. Couple leads that we talked through. Ant-Man under 28.5 points. Nuggets money line +115. And then we talked about maybe potentially looking to Ant-Man assists and correlating that with the side as well. For Andrew ConnorWatts, for J Money is Money. I am your host, Sean Little. We are presented by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Go download the Action Network app. We will see y'all tomorrow. Don't forget it. Get buckets, baby.